Samantha Alloway. She uses she, her pronouns. She is the exclusive director of the Arc of Illinois. I am delighted to introduce Samantha Alloway. She is the exclusive director of the Arc of Illinois. Samantha is an accomplished and influential leader, recognized for her experts in government relations, advocacy, and human services. Her impressive career includes serving as the Director of Government Relations for the Little City Foundation. Samantha is also a proud member of the Illinois Women Institute for Leadership, Training Academy, class of 2024. Samantha has dedicated her efforts as a CASA-GAL in King County, advocating for children's rights with the foster care system. Additionally, Samantha has worked as an advocate coordinator and operations manager at Lazarus House, where she is supported individuals experiencing homelessness. Samantha is a certified in domestic violence. She holds a certificate in legal justice studies from Rasmussen University and earned a bachelor's of art in communication and sociology from Northern Illinois University. Beyond her profession and achievements, Samantha is a proud parent to three wonderful children. I'd like to turn it to Samantha.
April, thank you so much. That was beautiful. That was very humbling, and you did not have to do that. So thank you, Rio, and thank you, Rio, for your incredible acknowledgement of Reverend Jesse Jackson. That was beautiful and so important to the work that we do. Hello and good evening, everyone. Our good friend from Illinois Council of Developmental Disabilities, Kim Mercer-Shader, earlier texted me and said, and I quote, "Happy Budget Day to all who celebrate." And I have kept that in my heart all day because this is a day that can come with a lot of anxiety. It can come with a lot of worry of what exactly will we be advocating for, not just here at the Arc of Illinois, not just here at Going Home Coalition, but as an entire united industry. And I just want you to know tonight is going to be a high level, just an informational PowerPoint about what was in the budget. And then what I'd really hope to get out of tonight is that we come together and we discuss the focus points, the things we'd like to see change here and our advocacy, not just at the Arc of Illinois, but how Going Home Coalition can really be at the center of this, of true lived experience. And if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can take a look. Now, this is not exactly how I would normally do my, let me get into share. My apologies, everyone. This is a quick aesthetic. Okay, I had to kind of put this together as quickly as I possibly could. So if I find I'm going to ask if everybody can see my slide. Is that? Yes. Thank you very much. I'm going to full screen. So tonight we're going to discuss Governor Pritzker's FY 2027 budget and the IDD impact that we were able to see within it. Just an overall agenda, the introduction and overview, and I'll allow you to read this if you'd like. We're going to talk about what exactly is in the IDD budget, the key budget components, the federal Medicaid threat and the reality of that advocacy, the impact on the Arc of Illinois specifically, the epilepsy funding update that you may have seen if you reviewed it, advocacy and engagement, who we are, and how we move forward together. I think it's easy to say that today's budget address delivered to the Illinois General Assembly, and there's a lot of information that was coming at all of us fast. We know people are anxious, and this presentation tonight is designed to cut through the noise, tell you exactly what's in this budget and what it means for all of us. So just an introduction and overview. This speech touched on housing, education, energy, and briefly mentioned disability services as part of historic events investments. And what I mean is just the speech, not the overall budget. There's a lot of pages to that and a lot more reviewing to do, but we're just referring tonight to Governor Pritzker's speech. The key challenges like the DSP workforce crisis, 16,000 person PUNS waitlist, and the Illinois low per capita IDD spending were not highlighted in his speech. I would like us to address that as we move forward, how maybe we can acquire more visibility and be at the front line of a lot of the advocacies pointed out. The IDD community seeks greater visibility, recognition, and prioritization in the budget discussions, but overall, IDD funding remains stable with some very meaningful increases. I think we should all be incredibly proud of our advocacy and providing a foundation for continued advocacy and always for continued improvement. We're going to look at some high-level notes of what was included today. So, the Department of Human Services budget dropped from roughly $14 billion to $10.6 billion, which I understand can look very startling. And so I wanted to just explain that this is due to the transferring of a $2.4 billion and 180 staff to a new Illinois Department of Early Childhood. It was not cuts to IDD services. I want to make sure we're all on the page there. And FY 2027 alone allocates $3.2 billion to the Division of Developmental Disabilities. And from Governor Pritzker's inauguration in 2019, this is a 79% increase, which cannot be overlooked, that these investments, while I believe some of us want them to come faster and maybe overnight, the investments are being made. And a lot of that is due to your strength, your advocacy, and sharing your voice and stories. The Liggett consent decree funding was one that we all found to be, I suppose, exciting in a way to see this moving forward. $33.9 million dedicated to fulfilling the Liggett consent decree obligations, ensuring continued improvements and community-based supports, which is so much of what we want to do here at the ARC and at Going Home Coalition. There was a DSP wage increase, even in this very trying times in this incredibly tight budget. And a lot of that is our collaborative efforts with our partners, not just here, but at the Illinois Council of Developmental Disabilities, IARF, the Institute, Access Living, these incredible advocates. And it shows that when we partner together, and they deserve more as well, I don't want to leave them out, of $24 million in funds, direct support professional wage increase. So this equates a 60-cent an hour pay raise, and this will be effective as of January 2027. So it's an improving pay, but not fully resolving the first request of $1.20, but it is still a large improvement. Significant investments were in this budget that include an $18.5 million for 630 new community placements and $97.6 million in an increase for home service programs to support independence at home. I think that in itself is to be celebrated and to know that we're moving in the right direction. There's some components that I think it's important that we all know about and understand, and of course ask questions on. The allocated $33.9 million is to meet legal requirements, ensuring community-based services for individuals with developmental disabilities. So while it is still some of the state's requirement, it's wonderful to see us moving in the path of progress. The $24 million dedicated to raising DSP wages, as I did mention, will be started in January 1st, 2027, and there is a higher reimbursement rate in suburban and collar counties. Something that was a large-scale initiative I'm happy to see is the zero-hour staffing model. And this $37.5 million of this budget restores approximately the 2.7 million previously reduced DSP service hours, and this is being done to improve care availability. SOD transformation specifically included $20 million support transitioning fewer than 1,500 individuals from SODCs to community living, which showcases a genuine commitment to the progress. And of course, that's what we'd like to see. And we want to be a part of those conversations. And overall, home services received a $97.6 million increase to support caseload growth and promote individuals with independence for individuals receiving home-based IDD services. We did touch on, and a lot of discussion was in today's about President Trump's administration and how some of these threats to Medicaid and Human Services and SNAP they've had a true impact right here in our state. And it's sometimes hard to see the large scale level and how this can make its way directly back to us here in the state of Illinois and our Illinoisans. So the Medicaid's role in IDD services, as most of us know, but if you don't, it's so important to remember that almost 70% of Illinois IDD services rely on Medicaid funding. And this makes it a critical source of financial support for individuals. We know that we were very enthusiastic, let's say, in last session about our advocacy and our federal advocacy for Medicaid. But today was a reminder that we can't give up on the Medicaid advocacy. We have to continue to educate legislators and to educate the community about the reality of this funding and how it directly impacts us. Illinois may face $6.1 billion in Medicaid funding cuts through FY 2033 due to changing federal policies, with a $169 million reduction already seen since early 2024. So it really does draw to light, even with these cuts in this tight budget, there was still an incredible effort to make sure that developmental disabilities and that all disabilities were supported and seen. The governor's commitment, he has stated that he is actively defending Illinois' vulnerable populations from federal Medicaid cuts, and he will continue to advocate for protections to sustain essential disability services. And so far, he is doing his very best to stick to that word. And I hope we can keep that going with all of us together. I do want to touch base on a reality of us here at the ARC of Illinois. And I don't share any of this to startle us. Quite frankly, I see this as an opportunity to remind everybody why the ARC of Illinois, Going Home Coalition, and our incredible programs are here. And I will say this quite boldly, we are here to stay. And we will continue to do this work in the great state of Illinois. The ARC of Illinois has received a dedicated state line budget item for its lifespan project and reflects a 76-year-old legacy as the state's largest grassroots disability advocacy organization. This year has proposed a 10% reduction in our budget. It's proposed at $424,300, which is a 10% cut from our original $471,000 that was in the FY 2026 budget. This reduces resources available for advocacy, for movements, for staff, and for programs. And it's important to note that it wasn't pointing your finger and we're going to pick on the ARC. It was an overall cut to all named budget line item DD organizations. And the other groups are Best Buddies, Project for Autism, and St. Mary's Hospital. And they're facing the same struggles that we are at this moment. And none of it is linked to performance or a lack of importance, but to the reality that things are being cut and assessed. I had a very, very deep conversation with Adam Morrow, and we discussed how do we make this work. And he was quite frank with me. He said, you got to advocate and you have to remind people why you're here. And I promise you that's exactly what we are all going to do this session. It's important that historically advocacy efforts have restored these cuts during legislative negotiations, and community engagement is essential to fully restoring funding, protecting services, but also to moving that funding forward, which is quite frankly what I would like to see. There was a note that could be quite startling, but I wanted to make sure we were all on the same page about the Epilepsy Foundation of Greater Chicago. In this budget, the line item is zero, but that does not indicate a loss of support from the governor's office. Instead, epilepsy funding is being consolidated into a broader statewide epilepsy services line, which increases from $1.75 million to $3 million. But I also want to note that this is something that our team here at the Arc of Illinois will be talking to and working with the Epilepsy Foundation to make sure that we're keeping our eyes on it, that these cuts are not being, that there aren't cuts, that it's not just proposed, but it's true to their word. And it's important to remember that this is just the starting offer. When there's the speech, when there's the first budget address, this is our starting line. And now we decide how we move forward, what we fight for, what we'll accept, and what we won't stand for. And that's the strength of our democracy. And it's pretty powerful when you think of it that way. The advocacy strategy and the community engagement. This year, we're going to go back to what we were doing last year, I think, as an industry, but we're going to amplify this a little bit about sharing our personal testimonials, our photos and videos to humanize and showcase the reality of the lives of individuals with disabilities and their families. The community stories help legislators to remember that these are real people behind policies. It's so easy to see, well, it's just a 10% reduction, but I don't see it as a 10% reduction. I see it as a person on my staff. And how do we make it that we do not have to lose any staff? And that's exactly what we'll fight to do. And these shared experience, they're going to guide the ARC's legislative strategies to protect the ARC and to expand funding and to expand the funding, not just to have the funding, but so that we can help more individuals and so that we can lift more voices and we can do it unified and together. Our collaborative efforts showcase for themselves, and Going Home Coalition is essential to this movement. And I'm so proud of the work that Rio, Goodwin Perez, and Jennifer, I'm going to say, I always say your middle name wrong. It is a tricky one, but Jennifer Sands, her beautiful middle name, is doing such a sensational job at keeping us centered at the progress. And my job here and tonight is just to talk about the numbers, to talk about what was said, and then we decide together how we lift one another and where we go from here, because I truly believe that our strength lies in unity and respect and the unwavering commitment to advocacy within the entire IDD community. If it's okay with you, I'm going to quit sharing my screen and hopefully we can start having some true conversation about, and we could always go back to a screen if you'd like me to, or I'm going to go ahead and think I'm still, there's the button. My apologies. I realize that's a lot of information to digest. So Rio, I'm going to pass it back to you and you could start this moderation and I'm here to answer and help and clarify.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for that. That was very enlightening. I am sure that we all have questions, so let's just jump right into things. We've got about 30 minutes. I'm gonna cut us off at around 6:50 so that we can talk about what's coming up. So we've got about 20 minutes to discuss. I see Bob has a question, a hand raised. So Bob, why don't you kick us off?
Okay, yeah, this is this is a very heavy question, which is with all these different cuts and with all these different things, is there a chance that Medicaid will be cut to the point that agencies will have to close?
That the agency would close or that medic, I'm so
No,
sorry.
no. Is there is with a 10% cut and more cutting from the president, is could Medicaid be cut to the point where providers have to close?
I don't, would anyone like to, pardon me, chime in on that? I'm not,
Sorry.
suppose
He
it's
doesn't
there. Yeah,
seem,
Rio, do.
the
Go ahead.
governor didn't say anything about cutting Medicaid, so
No.
there, it looks like it's pretty flat, small increase for, the community services program, but Samantha just presented is that it's the organizations or some of the other programs from the state budget have a 10% cut. So
That is
I, I,
correct.
I think we can be, very hopeful, and I should turn on my camera. Um, and it it's a good sign that 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 he's not, other governors across the country are saying they're going to cut Medicaid and cut community services, which is just an easy thing for them to do. On the other hand, this year in the 2025-2026, well, wait, yeah, 2026 budget, there was a lot of cuts, hidden cuts to DSP hours within the system that, the administrators just decided to do. And supposedly having something to do with Guidehouse, um, you know, um, kind of realigning with Guidehouse recommendations. And so it was good to see. I wondered what that one item was about. I forget what it was called. That seems to be putting some of that money back in the budget for DSPs. So that's very positive. So I don't know, it's a mixed bag, but I think we really need to speak up on the importance of um, the programs funded the Arc of Illinois programs that are funded in the state budget, how important that is.
Thank you.
And I agree with that. I'm just saying that the president wants to cut all these different programs like special education and other things. I was just wondering if he could cut Medicaid to the point that providers will have to choose things instead of having it the way it is now. And even though the governor didn't say that if it didn't happen now, um, could it happen? Could the same thing happen that happened to the education department?
Well, none of that was mentioned in Governor Pritzker's address. It wasn't really a, pardon me, Mariel, I see your hand is up. Maybe you have something to.
No, and I was just gonna say what I heard them talk about was HR1 and the impacts on SNAP and Medicaid, and that DHS and HFS are working together to mitigate those issues. And there's been a lot of staff hired on to be able to process documentation. And so, to Sam's point, like the level of being in tune with what's happening to your individual like benefits, in addition to people in your community, speaking up, speaking out, making sure that you are sharing updates that, any experiences that people are having as the state works to mitigate these issues, that you are like letting people know, right? Speaking up about it. But from what I understand is the state has put in some troubleshooting efforts to alleviate issues directly hitting people at this point, right? So, yeah, I mean, that's, I think, where we're at, Bob.
Okay.
I wanted to add just one thing. They're hiring to try to develop automated processes for SNAP, which will help to take some of the bureaucracy away from the families. So they really are actually trying to mitigate any of the issues that HR1 is causing. That's what I was able to ascertain from today, but there'll be more details as we continue to review. I appreciate that. Rio, sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. I think let's go to Jennifer and then back to Paul.
Samantha, I want to thank you so much for just making sure that we understand that this governor's proposal is the start, because there's a lot of things in there that are good and a lot of things that are concerning. And my understanding is it goes through voting, just like everything else. Is it generally then towards the end of the session before the budget finally gets voted on and passed? I'm presuming we're going to be advocating for this from here until like May 28th or whatever that last day is. Is that right?
You are correct. 100%. And I mean, those are when you get the calls at 1 a.m. from the House floor and they're trying to get the last thing passed through. You know, it's a live production of very large scale excitement. But you are right. We will continue to advocate, to explain, to be present, to be present in the legislators' lives, in districts, in Springfield, the work you're doing here, and create this incredible community, which will allow us to do just that. You are correct. Welcome.
Paul?
So I kind of missed part of toward the end of the governor's speech. I got distracted with something. So the reality is a lot of the cuts to Medicaid are going to hit Illinois with the cuts to the Affordable Care Act adults, because Illinois will not be will have to cut those people off of their Medicaid coverage, right? Because Illinois has a law that when the federal reimbursement rate drops, Illinois doesn't participate in the Affordable Care Act anymore. So my concern is those young adults that might be coded as ACA, Affordable Care Act adults, and not, and lose Medicaid. And whereas, they probably should be, could be coded AABD. So we're kind of getting into, nitty gritty details here, but those are things that, I haven't heard people talk about for a while. But it sounds to me, or it just seems like, the DHS is very aware of that, DHFS, the Department of Healthcare and Family Services, and maybe is working on that. But and that's what I'd be kind of worried about if accidentally people started losing Medicaid and then they lose their services because of that.
Thank you, Paul. Does anyone have anything to add to that or any other thoughts on it?
Could all of this, could all of this go away if the Democrats go back in the office, so that every bill that every each uh each one uh can be uh um everything that each one does can be put back into place when a Democrat goes into office. Do you understand the question?
Well, Bob, so these midterm elections are going to be probably the biggest important elections in our lifetime, but
Yes.
these people won't take office till January next year, and the machinery's already rolling down the road. And it might be a while before this
Yeah.
act is repealed.
I was just asking. I was just asking if the bill could be repealed, and all the things all the things the president that has done can be undone. Is what I'm asking.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah,
That
keep hope alive.
that's
We'll
all
keep
I want to know. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. I see April has her hand raised.
Yeah, what can we do to help? Like get either more funding or, whatever.
have some ideas, but I would love to hear if Going Home Coalition has some ideas. I know if I start, I always go back to sharing stories, posting on social media, contacting your legislators. We're going to make some very easy to follow advocacy tools that will help us throughout this rest of this session. We are producing that now. It's going to take a little time, but we'll have it out to make it easy to contact your legislators by phone or by email. We'll have advocacy days lined up that we'll continue to discuss. But I would love to hear if anyone else has some ideas on what we could do to lift.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can jump in. I think this is definitely a moment that calls for in-person advocacy days. So if we can start planning now to get together and go to the Capitol and start advocating for ourselves, I think that's going to be something that's really influential and important. Getting as much face time with our representatives as possible, starting from now that we know the governor's budget proposal, we have an idea of the way that we need to jump in to advocate. So if there's anyone in this call who is like, I feel ready, let's go, like, let's contact our legislators, just send me an email and we can start arranging those meetings with your legislators. We don't need to wait to go ahead and start advocating for ourselves. So we have, thankfully, Samantha has given us a lot of information that can kind of inform the way that we move forward. So I think individually, it's time for us to kind of jump into action. And then outside of this particular advocacy space, just talk to your peers. If you're someone who is living in a Scylla, make sure that you're talking to everyone who's living at your house and saying, hey, is there a story that you can tell? Do you want to come to a Going Home Coalition meeting? Do you want to come to an advocacy day? And we can start, planning a caravan to Springfield. I see Jennifer and Paul both have their hands up. I'm sorry, I missed who was first.
Jennifer can go.
Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, I put my hand down first this time because I left that one up. I want to piggyback on the storytelling. Yes, with the legislators, absolutely. But when Rio was saying talking to your peers, I really think there is such a power in that visual story. And so the more, not only like you, April, you're great at this too, but encouraging your peers to be willing to maybe doing short videos and getting them out on social media, because the more we can get our stories out to our disabled and non-disabled peers, then we can then take the next step and ask them to be calling on our behalf and on all of our behalf. So, and I am happy to help with anything like that to make it like simple stuff. I'm not talking production house level, although that would be awesome too. But we just need a lot of just social media version.
Do you think it's possible to invite Governor Pritzker to a meeting?
No, absolutely.
Let's make
It
it happen.
absolutely is. I'll do it tonight. We'll get started. Yeah,
No,
absolutely.
that way
Great
we can let
suggestion.
him know like not in person, but through this, you know, how what we do is meaningful for us, and for the community.
April, I'd like to suggest that if you would like to help me write that email, it could be even stronger coming right from you. So maybe you,
Okay.
me, and Greg can meet next week and
Okay.
discuss how we reach out. I'd love that.
Yes.
Okay,
Awesome.
wonderful. And Rio and Jennifer too, of course. But I just don't.
Thank you for the invite. Paul.
We've been hearing, or people have been writing on iPad about their loved ones. Scylla has merged with another one to make it more beds. So, we have a trend going here. Also, we've heard of new Scylla's opening with 8 beds. Now, that is the licensing cap, but, we know that people really want to have smaller settings and be served in their own homes. And, in the governor's address, and it kind of mixed up like home services with home-based supports. And so anyway, when you talk to, I think um, sharing your stories when if something is happening in your SILA or with your provider, it's helpful if you share that with the ARC and with tell your stories and tell what you want, what kind of living situation you want. My brother's provider was they told me they lost $100,000 in revenue um, over a year ago, and so they were adding more beds to their SILAs. They were going to put people in the basement of his house,
Oh my
and I just
God.
couldn't believe it without even consulting with the people in the house whether they wanted to have someone living in the basement. So these are,
Oh,
hidden things that, the more that we talk to each other and share information like this, the more we can be aware of like, oh, that's not the direction we really want to be going in, having people living in the basement.
thank you, Paul. I can't believe that just happened, Paul.
Well, my brother moved a year ago in September, but it was around that time that they were planning to do that.
Right?
And I don't know if they never did it or they haven't yet. And I don't know if Belk stepped in or the town, the village said, "Oh no, you cannot, we're not going to let you have 5 people in that little ranch house." So, but I don't know really what happened, why they didn't. But I know they've added um, some in some other houses.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that. So we're coming up on 6:50. I'm wondering if anyone else in the room has questions, comments, things that are important to remember, fun ideas before we jump into what's coming up next. We've got a lot of very expert minds in this room, and I want to take advantage of that while we're all here together right now.
I am going to drop some links in the chat for the budgets, the budget address so that you can watch it and then so you can read it. So just wanted to let you know that it's there so that you can grab that while we're wrapping up.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jennifer. Vicky says, thank you so much for sharing a first look at the budget and its effects. May we share the information from your slides with others. Great. That's a yes from Samantha. What we'll do is I'm going to upload this entire video to our YouTube page. It will be up by tomorrow, and I will send out a link to everyone. We can share that information, and then if everyone is interested in getting the actual slides from Samantha, I can work with her to make that an accessible format for us all to take a look at. Thank you, Vicky. Got lots of thank yous and lots of yes, pleases. So sounds like that's something we'll jump on. We'll make sure that that's available promptly to you guys. Anything else? Samantha, do you have anything else to add? I know you said you all wanted to jump into your ideas. So
No, this was calm. This was
great.
good. My emotions were up, down, and all around. 4 hours since I got the call and figuring out how do we do this, but I will always side with positivity. Even in storms, I will see the positivity because it always gives us an opportunity to be together and to grow stronger together. And I do swear to you, I believe with all my soul, that is the way we move this needle forward in the state. So we will be positive and we will fight. That's what we will do. Be good.
Thank you.